Good morning. Welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Celtic have a very Celtic issue. Currently trying to bring in a new manager for the longer term, a manager that will more than likely be paid a fantastic wage. He will want to bring in his own set of players on big money. But Celtic have a big issue. And it's something that whilst we can all have our reservations about what's going on at the club at the moment, the one thing that we can't hide away from is the massive wage bill. 74 in last season, the 24-25 season, Celtic had a wage bill of 74.8 million. Now that's not just the football playing staff, that is all the staff. Celtic employ around about 1,000 people within the organisation, but the football staff does take up about 70% of it. And the fact that it's raised to 74.8 million, there's just a few years ago, a lot of us Celtic fans that have been interested in this type of thing will remember the fact that Celtic's turnover not long ago was 74.8 million. The fact that we've now got our wage bill up so high was maybe the reason that there's been a bit of tension at Celtic. Because if you look back to 2019, 2020, 2021, where it was only 51 million, the wage bill. The fact that it's grown in 4 years, 24 million higher a year, is phenomenal for a club like Celtic. And I'm going to say that is not sustainable. If we don't get into the Champions League 2 years in a row, we need to drop the wage bill. It's simple mathematics. It's simple business. And you can understand why the board were a bit pissed off that Brendan Rodgers didn't get into the Champions League. And it's all fucked up now, isn't it? It is just, when you see those numbers, these numbers were delved into by the Scotland Coefficient website. And they put out information. There is another bit that I could put up on the screen just now. It's not that one, it's that one. The increase was a significant 14% rise from 56 to 74 million. This figure represents the wage bill for staff employed at Celtic, not just the first team. The first team wages are estimated to make up around about 70% of total staff costs. Point examined in greater detail in the UEFA section later in this report. Across the wider Celtic group, the club employs approximately 1,000 people. You've got to say, you can understand why good morning from Switzerland. Good one. You can understand why the Celtic board are a bit on tenterhooks when it comes to the finances of Celtic. And yes, it's okay, we need more players. Yeah, we do need more players in. But we can't let the wage bill spiral out of control. Whether or not we're not paying around the same as O'Neill's first time round. I don't think Celtic's turnover was near 70 million 25 years ago. I think when you look back 20 years ago, I'll get it up for you in fact, Scotland's Coefficient. It doesn't go that far back. It only goes back to 2013, where the wage bill was only 38 million. So no, there's no way that Celtic's turnover in those early years, in the early 2020s, was around about 50 million. Do you know, it's phenomenal that we're now paying out 74 million in wages alone. I can remember when everyone was buzzing when Celtic's turnover got to 70 million. Our turnover. Do you know, 2014, 2015 it was 30 million. 2013, 2014, 13-14 season it was 38 million. 14-15 season it was 33 million. 15-16 it was 37 million. 16-17 season it jumped up to 52 million. It jumped up 20 million then, and it's never managed to come down. What happened around about that time? Brendan Rodgers came into Celtic. 17-18 season, it went up to 59 million. 18-19 season, it went down to 56 million. No Champions League football. And 2019-2020 season, 54 million. 2020 season, 51 million. We have to be serious. And I know that we'll want change at the board. We all want change at the board, but we have to live within our means as a club. You know? Sent the image for 20 years ago, Baz. Let me just send on. Oh, interesting. Morning gossip. After having the picture of this is interesting. This is kind of breaking news this morning, if there is any truth in it, but it's coming from a good site. The fact that Dermot Desmond was at Celtic Park the other night with Willie Haughey and a certain Mrs. Whelan. It's been said that Dermot Desmond is about to realign the boards. Sack the board messages are getting through. Nicholson will be off to a European job, whilst Lawwell will retire again. Will that be significant enough for the Celtic fan base to call off further protests? Getting rid of Nicholson and Lawwell was a big objective of the Celtic collective, and it could be big changes. And maybe Dermot Desmond has went, look, Rodgers was a prick, but you guys are not running the club correctly. You've had a good run at it. Maybe it is time to go. Now, it is not confirmed. It's time to keep the pressure on the board 100% while backing the team at this point. But if there's an ounce of truth that this may happen, the Rebels have won. Dermot will still be there. Dermot's not going to sell his shares. Do you know that he's not going to sell his shares. We can face facts with that. Dermot's shares is going nowhere. Let's get the wage bill up from 20 years ago, and then we'll come back into that bit of breaking news this morning that Dermot Desmond could be ready to realign Celtic's hierarchy. And I did say that woman's not kicking about at Celtic Park for no reason. She's not invited up just for a little luncheon, a little meal, you know, a little sit and chat. She's been brought up for a reason. And if it is to shake the board up, fair play to Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers, we've got him on the fucking brain this morning. I've just read a comment about Brendan. That's what happens when you're reading 3 screens at once. Dermot has sold some of his shares from previous companies. That's interesting also. Right, let's get this wage bill up from years ago, because then we can see. Now, I'm going to increase the size of this so that you can read it on the screen. You look back to 2001 under Martin O'Neill, the wage bill was 25 million. 2002 season. 2003, when we went to Seville, the wage bill was only 33 million. In 2004, it was 40 million. In 2005, it was 37 million. And then income, you could see the managed decline. Something that we spoke about a lot on this channel. Gordon Strachan come in, managed decline. Wage bill goes down to 32 million. Creeps up to 36, 38, 38. Tony Mowbray, managed decline again, comes down to 36 million. Neil Lennon, more managed decline, goes down to 32 million. And Lennon creeped the wage bill up to a height of 40 million during his tenure at Celtic. But Neil Lennon spoke about it before as well. He spoke about the fact that he went through a period of managed decline when the wage bill went from 33 million in 2012 down from 40 million to 37 million. It dropped down a little bit, and then in come Ronnie Dylan, it drops down to 33 million. Under Ronnie Dylan, it went up a little bit to 36 million. But when Brendan Rodgers came in at 2017, it jumps up to 52 million. That's the figures that we've got on the screen. It was 50. It's just rounding the figures up, obviously, on this one. And then you see the increase during the Brendan Rodgers years. And then when you put that into, that takes us up to 2020. And then when you put that from 2020 going forward, and you look at the massive wage bill increase. Now, I'm not putting this up to back the board in any means. Far from it. We need a reality check from the business side, of the club. We need some kind of stability. We need people that can come in and just keep an eye on the top line. Because, let's face it, 2 or 3 years out of the Champions League and in the Europa, our wage bill is going to have to come back down to 50 odd million. We're going to be losing 20 million. And that comes through assets. That comes through players. That comes through, we have to go back to, bringing in cheaper players. And it's the Celtic model. We need, and this goes on the board as well, by the way. This goes right back to the board. That we need to bring in players to make sure the manager has the tools at his disposal, has the players at his disposal to get into the Champions League. This is not a get out of jail card for the board. This is anything but. This proves that the board needs to get off their fucking arse and do things quicker. And look, we've seen all the managers over the years that have spoken about transfer windows. I just think that it's the Green Messiah. Why did I get the impression Dermot's about to sell up, hence overhaul from top to bottom? He's done. I don't think so. Celtic who? Is Willie Haughey just sold the City Group by any chance? Because that's the only person that is connected to Celtic that could buy his shares. And I don't think he's came out publicly and said that he's not selling his shares. He's not selling his shares. Get rid of the marketing department and hire new people because they're terrible. Yeah. And the social media team. I mean, why does Celtic need 30 people on a social media team? I mean, there's a billionaire called Gary Vaynerchuk that owns a media empire. And I think he's probably got about 50 folk on his social media. He doesn't even have that. He definitely doesn't have it. Dermot, you should praise someone you'll be the person at Celtic's hopeless. Yeah, I think that we can all. Does the wage bill now? Yes, Richard. It will include the women's football team. It will include all the staff at Celtic. It will include the men's football team and it will include the women's football team as well. It includes all the staff, all the kitchen staff, everyone in the offices. I mean, they employ around about 1,000 people over the whole football, over the whole club. So it is what it is. But it's the fact that 70% of that wage bill is football squad related, and it's always the football squad that will take the hit. You're not going to get rid of 5 people off the social media team. Baz is Dyson at Fit and Play Sunday. We'll talk about that later on today, maybe at some point. Once we have had the interview by the manager Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill. Give her 50 years here on social media stuff, Baz. Yeah, this is very true. I don't think I'll be around in 50 years, mate. But whoever has the channel in 50 years' time is welcome to have 30 social media stuff. That means that I've done something right and I've left a legacy. That's not going to happen, is it? Once I die, the channel dies. Or once I hang up my boots, that's it, as they say. Anyway, wage rules only apply to men's first team, so we're well below the 70%. Celtic are miles off crossing the line under UEFA's guidelines. We're not disputing, I'm not talking about guidelines or anything here. I mean, people need to understand the business model that we have. I'm not getting into a discussion about FIFA rules and this. That's cash that comes out of Celtic. 74 million on wages. But people are arguing about how much money we could spend for UEFA. If we don't get into the Champions League, our turnover was 125 million or something last year. Doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room, some may say. Do you know, if you have, but we are not going to get 125 million turnover this year because we've got 40 million from the Champions League. If you take away that 40 million from the Champions League, 2 or 3 seasons in a row, that number of 74 million has to reduce. And it reduces by getting rid of high-paid players, and we bring in younger players on cheaper wages. It's just the way that Celtic is. And until people start understanding that it doesn't matter what board members are in, it doesn't matter who runs the club, they still have the same finances to work with. So never mind talking about FIFA regulations or whatever. This is business model stuff. It's pure economics. And until people start thinking about that side of it, we need to be realistic. We need to be realistic. But it is a bit of good news this morning, and there is a bit of good news on if that does come true with the board. Where did that go to? Let me just try and find that again. There's an interesting one. Rumours Dermot is behind moves to realign the board. Nicholson off to Europe with Lawwell retiring again. Could some of the old guard be about to depart? We have the one to run. Time to keep the pressure on the board while giving the boys 100%. Yeah, it is. It is, mate. And I think that when we look at the games, let's talk about the football. Let's get back to football. How long do we keep Martin O'Neill at Celtic for? That is the big question. Can we get the manager in that we want? There's a lot of talk going on late last night that the Celtic manager situation has been thrown into turmoil due to the early exit of Brendan Rodgers. There was a lot of chat last night about the fact that Celtic were planning, they knew that Brendan Rodgers wouldn't be here at the end of the season, and they were already looking at Craig Bellamy to come in this summer after the World Cup. Now, it has been said that Craig Bellamy has said that he's not leaving Wales. They've got an important game in just a few weeks' time that we'll see them get into the World Cup playoffs and hopefully into the World Cup. He wants to take Wales to the World Cup. Celtic knew this, and they were looking at Craig Bellamy as a manager candidate after the summer when Brendan Rodgers was going to leave Celtic, but he spat the dummy out. He was wanting to resign. He got fucking sacked. Or they accepted his resignation, sorry. So the Craig Bellamy... The Wales manager one is out the window. So then took our eyes to the man who was talking yesterday, and that big money's been put on. But with the wages required for him to come to Celtic, it's going to be roughly about 3 million a year, the same as Brendan Rodgers. But there is another manager. The Bruges manager has also been linked, and he said never say never. So it's going to be interesting what Celtic decide to do, because the games that are coming up, we obviously have the Scottish League Cup this weekend. Let's just change screens and we'll get the... When you look at the games that we have this weekend, you obviously have Rangers this weekend, which is going to be a tasty enough game as it is. It's a must-win game. And then, this is where it gets difficult for Celtic, because what if we win the Rangers game convincingly, right? You've got to look at the possibilities here. What if we win the Rangers game convincingly? What if they then go to Midtjylland and Martin O'Neill goes in and does what he has done in Europe before for Celtic? And what if he gets a convincing performance out the players? And a performance that makes you go, could we? You just think about it. You know, if we get a convincing win and we score a lot of goals, away in Europe, and it gets our European season started, and then the fans get that little bit of excitement, and then they sit and go, whoa, wait a minute here. You don't really think that we should be replacing Martin O'Neill at this point? He took us to Seville, remember? Do you keep him? Where is the final? There will be then a rush by Celtic fans to go, well, wait a minute. But then that's all hearsay, because we might get absolutely humped and usual away from Europe. But if that happens on the 6th of November, it could change the dynamics of when Celtic are now thinking about getting a manager in. Maybe Dermot Desmond is sitting thinking, yeah, we need some change at boardroom level. Do you know, Peter, you fucking resigned a few years ago. You retired, you came back. And maybe it is time for you to hang out your boots, Peter. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it's time to take the suit off and go over to Portugal and just have a fucking happy life away from Celtic. And then when it comes to Nicholson, Mr. Nobody doesn't speak to nobody, that would be a little bit concerning to the owner, the majority shareholder at Celtic. Because he'll be sitting thinking, well, why aren't you talking to people? Do you know, when he was in the job, Fat Boy, Lawwell, he spoke to the media all the time. It's all about keeping Celtic in the limelight. It was all about keeping the Celtic narrative, taking control of the narrative of the conversation about Celtic. Peter Lawwell owned that, and Michael Nicholson just doesn't say anything. So maybe Nicholson, if he is getting a European job, if this is to come true, it's just rumours this morning, but if that does happen, you've got a perfect time in November to try and get those changes in, and then get the new people in. Maybe they're holding off. Maybe they're holding off, and this is the discussions that we need to make changes at all levels, not just bring in manager and management team. But anyway, after the game in the Europa on the 6th of November, we then go back to Celtic Park. Now, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the European game, and then what kind of reception the Celtic players, and if there's not been any change by the Kilmarnock game, that'll be a spicy game back at Celtic Park, because it'll be the first time that we've been back to Celtic Park, obviously, and that is on Sunday the 9th of November. There is then the international break, and then we're not back until the 22nd of November. We're away to St Mirren. Now, St Mirren's always a tasty game, but I think that it does allow the board just an extra week or so. I mean, ultimately, you would want Celtic to go, right, this is the man that we want, put all in and go for him. But at the same time, maybe there is the situation that, you know, I want to change more than just the manager. I want to get the right team in, because the right team is going to have to clear up this mess. Yes, it's sustainable. 74.8 million of a wage bill is sustainable if we stay in the Champions League on a year-to-year basis. Don't know. And that's the worrying part. Night after the AGM. That's a good point, because the AGM is about that time as well. Interesting. We'll wait and see what happens. But anyway, that's sort of big Celtic news this morning. When it comes to the game this weekend, I think we'll talk about that just now. We'll talk about that this afternoon. Yeah, we'll talk about the Rangers game this afternoon. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this morning. I hope you have a fantastic day wherever you are, all around the world. It's I think it's going to be a weekend where it kind of, the manager talk dulls down a bit. And I think that we'll wait and see who's all at Hampden this weekend, because if there are any potential candidates for any positions at Celtic Park, they may be invited to Hampden this weekend. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.